George Russell is one of the brightest young prospects in Formula One right now, and yet his talents are not being put to good use. We see the likes of Verstappen, Leclerc, Albon and Norris all thrive in the big teams and fight amongst the best drivers on the grid, but George Russell is one of the best among his fellow young drivers. So shouldn't he be in a top team like the others as well? Well, Lewis Hamilton for sure isn't going anywhere, and with the current form that Valtteri Bottas is in, Mercedes have decided to extend his contract for one more season. When George will be promoted to the senior team is only a matter of time, but why is he the one to lead Mercedes into the next era of Formula One? Here are 5 reasons why. But before we get into that, I just want to remind you guys to drop a like and subscribe to the channel with notifications turned on so you never miss the best F1 content on my channel. Also, follow me on Twitter at BMPHF1 as I post lots of F1 related news and stories on there, so definitely check it out. And without further ado, let's get into it. Number 1. His achievements. For any top tier driver in any motorsport, it is essential that they have success in lower formulas in order to be promoted to the big leagues. George Russell had a near perfect karting career, which is common among pretty much all Formula 1 drivers. His debut in single-seaters came in 2014 in the Formula Renault 2.0 series and the BRDC Formula 4 Championship, where he won a 4-way title battle by winning the final race of the season. He spent the next 2 years in Formula 3 before moving up to GP3 for 2017. In that season, George took 4 wins, 3 poles and 5 podiums and sealed the championship at the second race in Jerez. He then moved up to Formula 2 in 2018, where he completely wiped the floor with Lando Norris and Alex Albon, winning the championship by 68 points from Lando. That season was well and truly his best in his racing career, and as a result, he was called up to Formula 1. Number 2. His skill set. George Russell is one of the most complete drivers on the grid. First of all, he is naturally quick, which is evidenced from his impeccable record against Robert Kubica in 2019. And yes, Robert was not performing to his full potential in 2019, but we must still give props to George for on some occasions he was seconds faster than his teammates in qualifying. His feel for the throttle pedal during wheel-to-wheel racing is extraordinary, and many have found this to be very reminiscent of the greatest drivers ever like Ayrton Senna and Fernando Alonso. His wet weather skills are also among the best on the grid, with his most recent performance at the Styrian Grand Prix where he qualified 12th place. Although we haven't seen him in any pressure situations yet, we can at least appreciate that he is above average when it comes to tyre and fuel management. And his overall racecraft in terms of overtaking, defending, track awareness, car control and so on are second to none. Number 3. His ability to do more with less. One of the most important factors in determining how great a driver really is to see how they perform in subpar machinery. We see the likes of Max Verstappen still take race wins in a Red Bull car that is inferior to the likes of the Mercedes and the Ferrari. Lewis Hamilton is another example. Although he hasn't had a bad car necessarily throughout most of his career, there were still years like 2009 where the McLaren was absolutely nowhere, yet he still managed to win 2 races. But probably the best driver to do this is Fernando Alonso, and his phenomenal performance in 2012 where he squeezed everything and more out of his Ferrari to finish only 3 points behind the world champion Sebastian Vettel. But before the 2019 season started, Williams pretty much slapped the car together using various design elements so that they could at least be able to race in Australia. But it was inevitable that they would be running right at the back of the field considering they had such a short development cycle due to disorganization and mismanagement. But at the Hungarian Grand Prix, Russell managed to qualify 16th on the grid, and after being swarmed by faster cars heading into turn 1, he didn't give up and managed to actually move up to 15th place by the time they got to the 6-7 chicane. He went on to finish 16th that race, ahead of the likes of Lance Stroll and Antonio Giovinazzi. Even though this was just one instance where he extracted more out of his car's capability and potential, we have to recognise just how slow Williams were in 2019, and for Russell to pull out such a result is no mean feat. Given a championship winning car, Russell will be able to use this ability during races where his car is not as quick to maximise the number of points he takes from a race weekend, which as we know from the current champion is crucial in winning the championship. Number 4. His leadership/maturity. Now admittedly, this attribute cannot be measured or determined using statistics and is merely just an observation of character. Although George hasn't yet performed in a front-running team or helped Williams move significantly up the pecking order, he proved to us last season that he has the key attributes of a team leader. Even at a young age, Russell has the maturity of a veteran like Lewis Hamilton, and I put this down to his experience with working with Mercedes in 2018. Lewis acted as a great role model for George during his time with Mercedes as a test driver, and this has helped George to develop a champion's mentality. One quote I really liked from George from an interview on the Formula 1 channel was, "I don't want to be complacent. To reach Formula 1 is one thing, but to stay in the sport and have a long and successful career as I wish to have is another thing." This maturity not only helps him on the track when making split-second decisions, but also off the track during interviews where he makes sound comments on difficult circumstances. He could easily just slate Williams for being dysfunctional and unstable, but instead, he lifts everybody up and speaks positivity about the team that he drives for. One example of a driver who did the complete opposite is Fernando Alonso. During the McLaren Honda years from 2015 to 2017, things were looking bleak for the Woking-based team, and Alonso didn't make the situation any better by constantly speaking ill of the Honda engine. Now, I am not defending Honda in any way, shape or form, I'm just saying that for a multiple world champion to be beating his team down instead of lifting them up is something that isn't fair on the team or the engineers. This for me is one of George's best traits as a driver that differentiates him from other drivers in Formula 1, and due to this, it means that Mercedes would be comfortable making him the face of their brand for the future. Number 5 is teamwork. When engineers are developing and making improvements to the car, it is incredibly important for the drivers to provide accurate feedback and information about where they feel the car needs to improve. George is not only exceptionally good at feeling what the car is lacking and what specific aspects need to be improved, but he's also just as good in relaying that information back to the engineers in a way that they can understand. One way in which he does this is relating the numbers and data logged from the simulator session to what he felt in the car, which makes him very easy to work with. And the final point I wanted to make is that his personality also makes the working environment to Williams a lot more durable, as he only brings positive energy in the garage. Looking ahead to 2022 to see what Mercedes might do to get George in their car is difficult to say. It's all dependent on how Valtteri performs over the rest of this season and in 2021, but soon enough, they will have to promote George to the senior team. George has all the key attributes of a world champion, and soon enough, he will be fighting amongst his fellow young drivers at the head of the field once again. I hope you all enjoyed. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel if you're new to get the latest F1 related videos in the future. Also, comment your thoughts on George Russell and what makes him the perfect fit for Mercedes in the comment section below. And as always, I'll see you in the next one.